Hey friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving back into the space of One Pale Reflection and continuing the work on the painting of Aurum that I was working on last week. I've got my digital art palette ready, and in this video we'll tackle a part of the painting that gave me quite a challenge, the rocky backdrop behind Aurum's throne. Spoiler alert, rocks are not my favorite thing to paint, but let's turn this tedious task into a masterpiece. If you haven't read One Pale Reflection, you should totally check it out. I've been working on it since I was 14 years old, and now it's been over a decade, and the book is finally finished. It's available on Amazon, and it was the biggest launch of any book that I've ever had yet, so definitely go give it a read if you are interested in young adult fantasy that's very nostalgic. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Let's get painting. Now, if you've been on my channel before, you'll know that I've talked about my One Pale Reflection characters in other videos, but for those of you who are new here, this is Aurum. He is a magical entity that is created from a dark curse. Aurum is not only the name of the curse, but also the name of the character. In this particular case, this Aurum was created with the intent of taking over one of the big baddies, Athos's main servant, Black Knife. The Aurum was inserted into a dagger, which was supposed to be then put into the host, in this case Black Knife, in order to begin the transference of magic in this ritual. However, nothing ever goes as planned when you're dealing with magic, and in the middle of the ritual, the dagger broke in half, leaving a piece of it lodged inside Black Knife's chest. Aurum, while the curse is kind of gestating, resides in Black Knife's mind, a dreamlike space of wiggly forms, red glimmering sand, and these rocks. It's a bit like painting a dream, but hey, we're artists and we love a challenge, right? Aurum's dominion, if you could even call it that, is quite exclusive. A throne, Black Knife's enchanted dagger, and a mirror. Oh, and did I mention the rocks? These rocks not only form the background, but they're also, in a way, the silent witnesses to the dynamic between Aurum and Black Knife. I think that this environment is filled with a lot of rocks because Black Knife, in a way, feels like his own mind is kind of like a prison. He's spent a lot of time inside dungeons and castles, and dungeons are made of stone, so it would only make sense that in his mind, where he feels like he's trapped, the entire environment would be like one giant, mountainous, earthy prison. Painting these rocks is like shaping the foundation of Aurum and Black Knife's relationship. It is definitely rocky to begin with, and it's really, really rocky throughout the entirety of the book. Let's talk about the struggle of painting rocks. I am not an environment artist. I typically paint figures, as you've probably seen if you've checked out any of my other videos on my channel. I despise painting rocks. I find them really mundane, and it's effectively just a bunch of flat planes up against flat planes. Spending effectively 3 straight hours on just rocks was a challenge, to say the least, but in art, there's often beauty in the mundane, right? And there's a lot of purpose in the background. Here, I really wanted to create a backdrop to Aurum that was organic and did have interesting shapes, so the end result was really worth every single hair-pulling stroke that I had to go through to get these darn rocks done. I won't sugarcoat it, I was exhausted. Hours of meticulous detailing can take a toll, especially when it's on something as seemingly mundane as rocks. I really like drawing figures because every little portion of the character is kind of new and refreshing. When you get done with the skin, you move on to the hair, and then you move on to the clothes, and then you move on to the accessories, and so no matter what you're doing when you're painting the figure, it's always something fresh and new, and my mind doesn't melt while working on it. When working on backgrounds, on the other hand, it's a lot more of the same thing over and over again, and that I think is what is the most difficult for me. I tried my best to also paint these rocks, even though it's a solid rock wall, in a variety of colors to at least keep it a little bit visually interesting. I think at the very minimum that helped me not totally lose my marbles while working on this, and in the end it created a backdrop that wasn't all the same color, so it was kind of a win-win situation. Effectively, I was just sitting here working on this the entire time, really wishing that I was working on literally anything else in this painting. But it's also kind of the reason why I started on the background. I knew that I was going to burn out really, really quickly working on the background because it was so boring. so I figured that if I finished it first, I would be a lot more satisfied with the end result of the piece. I wouldn't find myself regretting that I did Aurum first and then killed myself at the very end of the painting, getting all the rocks done. I think the hardest part about this was knowing that I couldn't put in the lighting just yet, and so I couldn't really capture the ethereal quality of the piece yet. This was very much a lot of preparatory work, and there was also no additional color in this at all other than the kind of reddish, purplish, brownish colors of the rocks. I knew I wanted to lay in a bunch of other really important colors, including red, later on, but the question was, would the foundation be good enough? Would the background be good enough for me to lay these special effects on top of later? Artistic exhaustion is an undeniable part of the process. Those 3 hours felt like an eternity, but here's the thing. This exhaustion, this struggle, is where growth happens. I learned a lot about painting rocks while working on this. I confronted my artistic limitations, and I pushed past them. So while I may have been tired, I did emerge on the other side with a newfound appreciation for rocks, I think. As I got closer to the end, I started to do a little victory dance here. And the really cool transformative journey is, I think, the realization of knowing that I went from effectively a blank canvas to the background almost being done. It is a dopamine rush that I don't think is really achievable doing anything else. The only other thing I think that I've ever done that has given me such satisfaction is playing video games, or maybe even finishing a good book, but it's just really satisfying to get through something that's so difficult like this. It's moments like these that remind me why I fell in love with art in the first place. What was that moment for you? If you made it this far in the video and you do any kind of creative craft like art or writing or crochet or dance or music, what was that moment for you when you realized that you had the power to really just love what you're doing? Because I think I experience that in little microdoses every time I paint, so I'm glad that it's never really faded for me. Oh, at this point, I literally have, I think, like 2 rocks left. I am sure I was losing my mind on my Twitch stream, and I'm so close. Okay, this was the last one. Freedom! Freedom! Voila! The rocks are done. They may have been a struggle, but I am actually genuinely pleased how they turned out. They have kind of this impressionist, kind of quirky quality to them. I like it. It's, at the very least, a testament to the fact that I will not give up. I am so incredibly stubborn. And now, so that I didn't totally lose my mind, I wanted to add in a little bit of lighting effects so that I understood what direction the painting was going when I picked it up again the next time. The rocks, now lit appropriately, give a better indication of what the final art is going to look like. In the next part of this series, I'm going to be working on the rest of the background and finally starting to add in Aurum. So if you want to see how the figure is added to the piece, be sure to follow along. If you're on TikTok, hit that follow button. If you're on YouTube, a subscribe would be so appreciated. Thank you so much to everyone who follows me. You are awesome. Oh, and also don't forget to hit that like button or the bell depending on where you are. And hey, if you're interested in having a say in the next artistic endeavor, check out my Patreon. Until next time, keep creating, keep challenging yourself, and don't let rocks stop you from making art.